I'm Gabby Pizzo.
And I'm Olivia Wyman.
And we're here to recruit you. Today on History Buff's High School Edition, we're going to be discussing the inaccuracies in the movie Milk.
But before we get into that, let's talk about the history behind the movie. Milk, 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 make my milk.
Harvey Milk, played by Sean Penn, was born May 22nd, 1930.
He was born to a small, middle-class Jewish family. Milk was one of two boys whose parents were William and Minerva Milk.
In 1955, Milk moved to New York City, where he worked as a public school teacher, production associate for several high-profile Broadway musicals, stock analysis, and Wall Street investment banker. He soon got bored of finance, though, and befriended gay radicals who frequented Greenwich Village.
He then grew tired of New York and moved to San Francisco with his lover, Scott Smith, played by James Franco.
Oh, damn. In San Francisco, he opened a camera shop called Castro Camera on Castro Street, putting his life and work right in the heart of the city's gay community.
This store increasingly became a neighborhood center, and Milk soon found his voice as a leader and activist, and in 1973 he decided to run for a position on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors.
Milk lost the election, but 2 years later, he also narrowly lost a second election for the same seat.
By then, Milk had become a political force and a leader in the gay community with connections with Mayor George Moscone, Assembly Speaker and future City Mayor Willie Brown, and future U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein.
In 1977, Milk was known as the mayor of Castro Street. He finally won a seat on the San Francisco City County Board. This made him the first openly gay officer, also as one of the first openly gay individuals to be elected to office in the U.S.
His reform agenda included protecting gay rights as well as establishing daycare centers for working mothers, the conversion of military facilities in the city to low-cost housing, reform of the tax code to attract industry to deserted warehouses and factories, and other issues.
He was a powerful advocate for safe neighborhoods and pushed the mayor's administration to improve services for the Castro, such as library services and community policing. In addition, he spoke out on state and national issues of interest to LGBTQ people, women, radical and ethnic minorities, and other marginalized communities.
One of his initiatives, Proposition 6, would have mandated the firing of gay teachers and anyone who supported them in the state's public schools. State Senator John Briggs was the main man behind the initiative. With an effective opposition from Milk and others, it was defeated at a time when other political attacks on gay people were being successfully waged around the U.S.
Milk campaigned against this initiative at things like the Gay Pride marches in San Francisco. In one of his speeches, he said, "Gay people, we will not win our rights by staying quietly in our closets. We are coming out to fight the lies, the myths, the distortions. We are coming out to tell the truths about gays. For I am tired of the conspiracy of silence. So I'm going to talk about it, and I want you to talk about it. You must come out."
Given the hatred directed at gay people in general, and Milk in particular, he received daily death threats. He was aware of the likelihood that he may well be assassinated.
A year after his election, a man named Dan White resigned from the board, saying that his salary was not enough to support his family. But White was prodded on by his police supporters and subsequently changed his mind and asked Moscone, the governor at the time, to reappoint him. The mayor refused, however, encouraged by Milk and others, to fill White's spot with a more liberal board member. On November 27, 1978, White entered City Hall with a loaded .38 caliber revolver. To avoid the metal detectors, he came in through a basement window that was left open for ventilation. He first went to the mayor's office, where they began arguing. Soon they moved to a private room where they could not be heard. Once there, Moscone again refused to reappoint White, and White shot the mayor twice in the chest and twice in the head. He then went and shot Milk twice in the chest, once in the back, and twice again in the head. White then soon turned himself into the police.
Milk quoted several versions of his will, as he said, to be read in the event of my assassination. One of his tapes contained the now famous statement, "If a bullet should enter my brain, let that bullet destroy every closet door." He also says,
"The other aspect of this tape is obvious, and is what should happen if there is an assassination, and it is cannot prevent some people from getting angry and frustrated and mad, but I hope they will take that anger and frustration and madness instead of demonstrating or anything of that type. I would hope they take it to positive, and I would hope 5, 10, 100,000 would rise. I'd love to see every gay doctor come out. I'd love to see every gay lawyer, every gay judge, every gay bureaucrat, every gay architect come out. Stand up and let the world know that would do more to end prejudice overnight.
His nephew, Stuart Milk, came out along with countless others across the nation on the day that Harvey Milk was killed. Shortly after his death, people marching for gay rights in Washington, D.C. chanted, "Harvey Milk lives."
The famous trial of the Dan White case was responded by the Twinkie defense, presented by his lawyer that White ate a lot of junk food which blasted sugar through his arteries, causing a homicidal rampage. As simple as eat a Twinkie, commit a murder. White served 5 years in prison, and 2 years after his release, he committed suicide.
That really pushes my buttons. Twinkie defense? Like, what?
I've eaten my fair share of junk food, and have I killed anyone? No. And you know who else really pushes my buttons? Anita Bryant.
She's an awful person. She deserves a pie in the face.
We're questioning Miss Bryant about her national crusade against gay persons when 4 self-proclaimed homosexuals from Minneapolis interrupted today's proceedings.
If we were going to go on a crusade across the nation and try to do away with the homosexuals, then we certainly would have done it on June the 8th after one of the most overwhelming victories in the country. But we didn't. We tried to avoid it and went into a place called Norfolk, Virginia, and were met with protest and all kinds of problems. And every...
Security agent? Security agent. No, let him stay.
No.
Let him stay.
Well, at least it's a fruit pie. Huh.
Let's pray for him right now. Anita, let's pray. Anita, why don't you pray? That's all right.
Father, we want to thank you.
Bryant burst into tears as the pie ran down her face. A little while later, Bryant's husband found the 4 pie throwers in a parking lot talking with newsmen. The 4 still had a banana cream pie with them, and despite his earlier plea for non-retaliation, Bryant's husband took it and threw it in one of the pie throwers' face. Des Moines authorities say no charges will be filed in connection with today's incident. Dennis Wilden, News 5.
When you look her up on Google, and her description is anti-gay activist.
Yeah, she encouraged a law for openly gay teachers to be fired to be passed. Milk, 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 you got it? Alright, on to what the movie got right. The first thing that the movie got right was that in the beginning of the movie, when Harvey Milk is sitting down at a table and recording something on a tape. It never explains this, but what he is recording is his will. The movie got what he said almost word for word. He even starts with the same line, to be played in the event of my death by assassination.
Not only did the movie do well with the accuracy of the will, it also did swell with presenting his hope speech.
Somewhere in Des Moines or San Antonio, there's a young gay person who all of a sudden realizes that she or he is gay, knows that if the parents find out, they'll be tossed out of the house. The classmates would taunt the child, and the Anita Bryants and John Briggs are doing their bit on TV, and that child had several options. Staying in a closet, suicide, and then one day that child might open a paper and it says homosexual elected in San Francisco, and there are 2 new options. The option is to go to California, stay in San Antonio and fight. 2 days after I was elected, I got a phone call.
Last week I got a phone call from Altoona, Pennsylvania. And the voice was very young. And the person said, thanks. You've got to elect gay people so that the young child and the thousands upon thousands just like him will have hope for a better life. Hope for a better tomorrow.
The movie did a splendid job of depicting Harvey's character throughout the movie. Sean Penn was the perfect actor for this part and gave off Milk's charismatic personality.
Alright, on to the hard part, saying what the movie got wrong.
One of the first things that the movie gets wrong isn't really that big. Near the beginning of the movie, when Harvey Milk is asked to rally against Coors,
In one of the shots in the bar, a Bud Light tap is visible. The problem here is that Bud Light was not made until 1982. This mistake was probably not made on purpose. The people most likely didn't notice or didn't know that Bud Light wasn't invented yet.
Another error made in the movie is how many times and where Milk got shot. In the movie, White shoots him once in the hand, twice in the chest, and once in the head. In real life, Harvey was shot in the wrist once, twice in the chest, and twice in the head, one after he was already dead. I'm guessing the reason why he didn't do the second shot to the head is because they wanted that moment to be more dramatic, and with a second shot to the head would almost seem like too much.
The next mistake is a little bit bigger, but still doesn't really affect the storyline of Milk's life. In the beginning of the movie, we see Harvey walk by a man and then call back to him. After he says that it's his birthday, he says, "You're not going to let me spend my birthday alone." After a little bit of banter, the two strangers leave together and we find out that his name is Scott. But this isn't how the two actually met. The star-crossed lovers met at choir practice. It's understandable to change how they meet because it makes it more romantic and more intriguing for an audience.
The biggest misinterpretation in Milk is the character traits of Mr. Dan White. In the movie, Harvey Milk says that White is one of them, hinting that he's gay. But White is a good Catholic family man, so he'd be closeted, and yet Milk says how he's living in the daily lie. The murder by White seemed to be out of homophobic rage as portrayed in the movie, but in fact not true at all. According to Ray Sloan, Dan White's campaign manager, White wasn't homophobic, and the murders was an effect from when Moscone and Milk betrayed him politically. In the movie, White appears to be the bad guy. What the movie doesn't show you is that White actually supported Milk and his resolutions. Sloan says the movie reflected White as a man he didn't know. It's disappointing how the directors chose to get Dan White wrong.
Okay, Olivia, let's cut the filmmakers some slack. They probably did this because a movie wouldn't really have a compelling storyline without an antagonist. It adds to the drama of the whole movie when they make him seem like he doesn't like Milk.
Alright, I see what you mean.
We will milk you. Moo, 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 moo.
Even with these minor setbacks, the bright side is that this movie was incredible. Don't you agree?
I do agree. Milk was such an inspirational film. Harvey fought through such an ugly world.
This movie wasn't just about sexuality. It was about making a difference. Sean Penn and James Franco are two straight men playing the parts of gay men. That just proves how great of actors they really are.
As said by Charles Kaiser, no other civil rights movement in America ever had such an improbable unveiling, an urban riot sparked by drag queens, but while many gay people remained ignorant of Stonewall and others reacted to it with discomfort, this 1960s version of the Boston Tea Party would do more than any other event to transform gay life in America. The thick bottle that had contained an entire culture was uncorked in 1969. Within a few years, it would be shattered into 1,000 pieces. As shown in the film, this period of time, this movement was the biggest of all gay rights anywhere. The voice of Harvey and other activists helped save lives and put comfort to other gay citizens in the States.
Being homosexual was characterized as having a mental illness, sick in the head, you could say. In the 1950s, a video was made to warn boys about homosexuality.
The following Saturday, they went fishing together. By now, they were using first names. Ralph said it was more friendly. Jimmy hadn't enjoyed himself so much in a long time. Then during lunch, Ralph showed him some pornographic pictures. Jimmy knew he shouldn't be interested, but, well, he was curious. What Jimmy didn't know was that Ralph was sick, a sickness that was not visible like smallpox, but no less dangerous and contagious, a sickness of the mind. You see, Ralph was a homosexual, a person who demands an intimate relationship with members of their own sex. But by now, Jimmy felt a fondness for Ralph, and they continued to go places together. Ralph was generous and took Jimmy many interesting places and did many nice things for him. He bought presents and even gave him money, but payments were expected in return. You see, Jimmy hadn't recognized Ralph's approach soon enough. When Ralph first asked Jimmy to go fishing alone, he should have discussed it with his parents or teacher. Finally, Jimmy told his parents, and they reported it to the juvenile authorities. Ralph was arrested, and Jimmy was released on probation in the custody of his parents.
The trouble with homosexuality today is that people actually think it's still a bad thing. Parents send their children off to conversion therapy, which is a bunch of dangerous practices like electric shock to change the way the brain thinks about relationships and have them stop being gay. There's a bill called the LD 912, an act to clarify the scope of practice of certain licensed professionals regarding conversion therapy. This will be voted on in 2018.
It is different now, however, with gay marriage being a thing and more acceptance for the gay community. It's sort of hard to think what Harvey went through to run for office with the difference of cultural struggles.
In conclusion, even though there were errors when making the film,
like technical or bigger-than-life character development,
the justice that this movie does outweighs them. There are so many minute details that the filmmakers put in. Overall, they did a very good job of sticking to the actual life of Harvey Milk.
So the movie Milk gets 2 thumbs up for historical accuracy.